The full harvest supermoon on September 29th at 5:57 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, September's full moon at exactly 6 degrees of the constellation Aries, with the sun at exactly 6 degrees, the constellation Libra, is offering us lessons in duality along the me versus we relationship axis, the polarity of Aries and Libra. Under this full moon and for the upcoming few weeks, Aries themes of self-assertion, ambition, action, dominance, independence, and freedom will be going head-to-head against Libra themes of compromise, diplomacy, harmony in relationship, interdependence, and choices or indecision. Let's begin by reviewing what a full moon is. A full moon occurs when the moon is halfway in its 29.53 day orbit, when the moon is completely illuminated due to its opposing position in the sky from the sun, reflecting the light of the sun like a mirror. You can think of the sun as a spotlight and the moon as the mirror, revealing what's been hidden below the light of the surface. Full moon is when the sun, representing our self-concept of self, our soul's core mission and expression in this life, aka the collective energy we're learning to embody, opposite the moon, representing our more private, emotional, comfort-seeking nature, who we already are. Since the sun is traveling through the constellation Libra, aka its Libra season, collectively, we're leaning into the higher vibrational traits and qualities of Libra energy, learning to embody traits of justice, harmony, beauty, compromise, diplomacy, and we're balancing them with the higher vibrational qualities and traits of Aries. Of Aries is self-assertion, independence, autonomy, authenticity, and natural leadership. Symbolically, the full moon is a time of completion, closure, reflection, and introspection. It's a cosmic spotlight showing us exactly where to focus on balancing two seemingly conflicting energies that in actuality balance one another beautifully. Self-sufficient, assertive, and decisive Aries is the perfect antidote for any people-pleasing or conflict-avoidant and indecisive Libra. Similarly, diplomatic, charming, and harmonizing Libra energy is the perfect antidote for overly self-focused, selfish, and domineering or aggressive Aries energy. They balance each other beautifully. A supermoon occurs when the moon is closest to the Earth in its apogee, appearing bigger, brighter, and impacting seismic activity and us on an emotional level significantly over the next few weeks as we get closer to the Libra new moon solar eclipse on October 14th. To reflect on how far you've come in your personal journey over the next 2 weeks, specifically as we look back to 6 months ago and the seeds that might have been planted 6 months ago. Just as the full moon raises the ocean's tides, so too does it stir up any underlying or repressed emotions within us. Emotions are symbolized by water, and our bodies are predominantly water. The moon in astrology rules over, like we said, our more private, emotional, comfort-seeking nature, as often passed down to us by our primary nurturer, which for many of us, but not all of us, is usually the mother. Placement can offer clues as to what we need for emotional comfort and fulfillment. Under full moons, especially supermoons, emotions may burst into the light of consciousness so that we can heal them through awareness. We may experience sudden revelations, perhaps as it pertains to Aries themes like our style of leadership or our ambitions, and we may experience an instinctive or gut need to express our true authentic feelings about something. To the astrology and the specifics for why a bit deeper in the deep dive, but for now, as a general introductory, you can look out for, under this full Aries harvest supermoon 2023, anger, impulsive action, and fights or disputes. Be careful with your words, and remember to choose your battles. Your energy is a precious resource and not everything is worthy of a response. You may experience illumination of issues and underlying frustrations within relationships. Libra rules not just romantic relationships, but contractual relationships, such as through marriage, and also business partnership. Anything one-to-one, friendship, mentor, mentoree, coach, client, etc. Experience more impulsivity as a collective, so look out for speeding. Pay extra attention when you're driving. We may see more people collectively, bravely asserting themselves and their needs. Remember to dare to be authentically you and to seek environments that foster and encourage you to be the authentic you. Aries energy involves a lot of fighting for oneself, learning to say no, choosing you, and setting healthy but mutually beneficial boundaries. So this is where Aries and Libra meet. We'll be called to take action toward our health routines in an overall strive for greater work-life balance. We may need to focus on a relationship, or we may be called to make a physical move or a physical career move. This Aries full moon happening on the relationship me versus we, Libra Aries axis brings us full circle to seeds that were planted between March 21st, 2023 and April 20th, 2023. Rewinding back to last spring, there were 2 new moons in Aries in 2023. There was a powerful Aries new moon at the critical 0th, the very first degree, on the very first day of Aries season, my dad's birthday, March 21st, followed by a second new moon on the critical 29th, the very final degree of Aries, on the very last day of Aries season, April 20th, when the sun moves from Aries into Taurus. This latter new moon was the Aries new moon solar eclipse. Let's rewind to March and April of 2023 and a little bit of May to review what was going on with the cosmos. On March 21st, 2023, my dad's birthday, when the sun is entering Aries, leaving Pisces for Aries, the 0 degree Aries mark of the constellation, we had our new moon, the sun and moon met at 0 degrees of Aries. Just a couple weeks later, on April 6th, we had the full moon in Libra. On April 11th, 2023, when the sun and Jupiter aligned at 21 degrees of Aries, this was the luckiest day of the year, and Jupiter's Cazimi, or rebirth. Jupiter has 1-year cycles, so at the end/beginning of a cycle, Jupiter goes through this conjunction with the sun and Cazimi before it begins its next 1-year journey, and the themes involved in that. This was in April, as Jupiter was going through this Cazimi. We were leaving behind unhealthy patterns of hustle culture, where we felt like we had to chase for something, into Jupiter and Taurus, which is a much more laid back and receptive sign, ever conscious of its energy. 20th, 2023, we had the new moon solar eclipse, 29 degrees of Aries. And immediately the next day, we had from April 21st, 2023 to May 15th, 2023, Mercury retrograde at the exact degree points that Jupiter retrogrades in 2023. 15 degrees Taurus to 5 degrees Taurus. For Mercury retrograde, that was from 15 to 5 degrees Taurus, April 21st to May 14th, 15th. For Jupiter, that was September 3rd to December 30th, Jupiter's retrograde through those exact same degree points. 15 degrees Taurus and 5 degrees Taurus. So there's definite messages for us there. We'll explore them in the Sapiens symbols later on in the video. On Cinco de Mayo, on May 5th, 2023, the full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus, with another full moon lunar eclipse coming on our horizon now in October 28th, at 5 degrees of Taurus. In mid-May, we had Jupiter entering Taurus to embrace an attitude of gratitude and themes of appreciating what you already have to attract more. So we're rewinding specifically back to that new moon total solar eclipse, 29 degrees of Aries, on April 20th, 2023 at 12:12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, as what was planted under that new moon specifically is what is coming under harvest or fruition under this harvest full supermoon, 6 degrees Aries. This was ushering us into Taurus season, happening on the day that the sun and moon traveled together from that last 29th degree of Aries into 0 degrees of Taurus simultaneously, which is a beautiful transition that symbolizes Jupiter's transition from Aries to Taurus, from go-getter into a much more Jupiter in Taurus is all about reconnecting with Mother Earth and nature and how precious she is and how grateful we should be for an opportunity to live in such a wonderful place, hospitable planet. It's encouraging us to retire this stimulant chasing hustle culture, teaching us to work smarter, not harder, teaching us how to receive more by doing less, looking for perhaps multiple streams of revenue, some passive sources of income, or as passive as you can make them. It's helping us redefine what it means to be successful and what we find as valuable or important, especially as it connects to our personal and individual values. At the time, this new moon, the moon and sun traveling together, formed an immediate square to Pluto at 0 degrees Aquarius. This was the spark that ignited Pluto entering the sign of Aquarius, a taste of the age of Aquarius. It urged us to explore the depths of our psyches for deeper personal truth and helped us reignite with the passion that drives from within. This energy and the energies we're seeing now over the next couple weeks is bringing a major completion on the Scorpio-Taurus financial axis of personal resources, values and money, Taurus, and shared family or inherited resources, Scorpio, between now and October 28th, 2023. The full moon lunar eclipse, 5 degrees Taurus. Rather than read the Sabian symbol, I'm going to summarize them for you for Taurus 5 degrees and Taurus 15 degrees. This is where we had that Mercury retrograde in the spring through the sign of Taurus during Taurus season, and where Jupiter for its journey from 2023 to 2024, where it has its retrograde. Exact same degree points from September into the end of December. So major themes. Taurus 5 degrees is a window at an open grave. This is all about letting go and moving on. This symbol speaks to the great sense of deprivation and grief that an individual can experience when he makes anything physical the entire focus of his reality and affection and then loses it. So this definitely speaks to attachment, becoming overly attached to something, idealizing something, putting too many eggs in one basket. I'm thinking of the Shakespeare quote, expectation is the root of all heartache. Becoming too attached to an outcome would be expectation. The emphasis here is on the need to adjust. Focus on what you have rather than on what has been lost. And this is really, we'll get into Libra 6 degrees is about the law of manifestation, the law of attraction. And with that, there's a law of negatives, the backwards law. You focus on what you attract, what you focus on. And if you're focused on the negative or lack, that is what you will create more of. It works both ways. So focus on what he has rather than on what has been lost. Count your blessings. Attitude of gratitude. Positive. At its highest, this symbol represents the ability to maintain equilibrium and flexibility, stability, in the face of change, material loss, disappointment, or premature endings. On the negative, it can represent pessimism, discouragement, and feelings of hopelessness or a lack of self-confidence. Today, the accent is on refocusing, transition, and change. It's time to let go of what once was and take notice of new opportunities that lie at hand. Life is what you make it. Your greatest advantage lies in looking ahead to the future. Be careful of overlooking something that you may be able to use. Taurus 15 degrees, nonchalance, the ability to maintain a plumb or poise even in the most trying of situations. The implication here is of a strong sense of self and a refusal to settle for being just another face in the crowd. This symbol represents self-composure and resourcefulness in meeting the challenges of everyday life. On the negative, arrogance or a cavalier refusal to take life seriously. Today, the recommendation is to put your best foot forward. Individuals and groups are not likely to let others dictate what is or is not appropriate for them. Your greatest advantage lies in acting as if. Create yourself anew by visualizing yourself as you would like to be and dramatize that self to the world. Maintain your dignity no matter what difficulties you face. Guard against becoming overconfident or cocky. Avoid making promises that you can't keep or creating expectations that you can't live up to. To read an excerpt from the Sabian symbol for 0 degrees of Aries, where we had our first new moon in 2023 in Aries. Today, the accent is on change and new beginnings. You may be feeling bored, restless, or lonely, or that something is missing in your life. Adventure beckons like the sweet scent of lilacs on a gentle spring wind. The novel and different have a special allure. Sabian symbol for 29 degrees Aries, a duck pond and its brood. The theme, contentment. The symbol speaks to everything flowing smoothly when an individual is in tune with himself and the universe. The image of a duck pond and its brood speaks to natural order or pattern. A duckling's behavior is based on imprinting instinct. After birth, each little duck bonds himself to the first thing he sees that moves, usually his mother. Thus, ducks ordinarily swim in the pond as family units. The ducks are doing what comes naturally, and their world is in order. The suggestion here is that individuals also find their world in order when they act in accord with their own special genius. It is possible that the turn of the century American slang expressions, everything is just ducky, meaning fine and satisfactory, and having one's ducks lined up, or ducks in order, provided the basis for the early commentary on this image. Positive. At its highest, this symbol represents an easygoing, unaffected disposition and a certain calmness and surety in handling things. On the negative, a lack of polish and refinement, or a lack of sensitivity to danger and personal deficiencies. The accent is on contentment and satisfaction with the status quo. Your greatest advantage lies in organizing and putting things in order. Follow established routines and be consistent. So think back to the end of March, beginning to mid-April 2023. Look back at your screenshots, look back at your journal, look back at an old work notebook. Look at what you were manifesting, or what ideas you were coming up with, what downloads you were receiving, things you were jotting down, things you were taking screenshots of to save for later. Look at those and see what intentions or projects you might have started are coming under fruition or harvest under this harvest full moon. Aries is a cardinal fire sign, with cardinal meaning initiating. Aries initiates through its action and ideation, through its decisiveness. Aries is known for its ability to naturally lead with its pioneering, ambitious energy, and as the first sign of the zodiac, its passion for new beginnings. It's a Mars-ruled sign, and similar to Scorpio moon, is known for having a business mind. Aries, however, is less adept at seeing things through to completion. As the very first sign associated with spring, new beginnings, and new life, Aries easily attunes to its own needs, much like an infant or child does when it's still very egoic or self-centered. This is partially why many people with strong Aries energy embody self-assertion and natural leadership. This is especially true for those who were born with their sun in the first house or their sun in Aries between March 21st and April 20th, because the sun is exalted or strengthened here. The sun, which remember symbolizes our soul's core expression, the energy we were meant to learn to embody, one of the energies we were meant to learn to embody in this life, is fully free to focus on the self in the sign of Aries. When the sun is in Libra, traveling through the constellation of Libra, aka Libra season, it indicates that collectively we're focused on embodying high vibrational Libra traits. Libra is a cardinal air sign or initiating air sign. Libra is gifted at initiating socially with its natural wit, charm, and beauty. People with their sun in Libra are known for being naturally charming, diplomatic, and harmonizing, peace-loving, the peacemakers. Full moon in Aries indicates that some triggers and tension may arise as tests to our balance along the me versus we axis, relationship axis of Libra and Aries. It wants us to pause and ponder, how do we advocate for ourselves and assert boundaries in a way that does not create walls, barriers, or block opportunities for open-hearted connection. Collectively, we're cultivating a greater sense of balance in our exchanges with others and learning to assert our needs for constructive conflict that ultimately leads to greater relationship, harmony, and stronger partnerships built on mutual trust. We're leaning into the full Aries moon traits of self-assertion, initiative, courage, and decisive action, which can help us release any lower vibrational Libra traits, including people-pleasing, codependency, conflict avoidance, passive aggression, and having weak boundaries with self and others. But also watch for leaning so far into the Aries moon energy, which can be overly self-focused, self-reliant, selfish, impulsive, and at times too direct or blunt. We have an opportunity here to reevaluate our existing boundaries with self and others. What boundaries are actually walls that keep us trapped within our comfort zones? Where might we hold ourselves back out of fear of failure instead of having the courage to just try something new? Aries energy wants you to remember that trying and succeeding and trying and failing offer equal seeds of opportunity for learning and growth. Just do it. And finally, where is having too much intuition or too much empathy for others clouding our judgment and establishing boundaries with others who may seek to take advantage or manipulate our good nature? Where might we be overextending to receive love, appreciation, acceptance in our connections with others and in the workplace? The sun is actually weakened in the sign of Libra, and as someone who was born during the heart of Libra season on October 8th, I'll explain what that means. This is considered its fall, the sun's fall, and it's actually how we got the synonym for fall, for autumn, as fall. Whenever a planet is in its sign of rulership or exaltation, you can always look to the opposite sign. So if the sun is in rulership in Leo, you can look opposite Leo. And if it's exalted in Aries, you can look opposite Aries to Libra to see the two signs where the sun would be weakened or debilitated, and I will explain what both of those mean. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Remember, you need to look at the entire chart as a picture and not just piecemeal it, because that's not what astrology is about. The sun, which remember is our self-concept of self, aka our ego, or what our souls incarnated, the energy our souls incarnated to embody in this life cycle, is in rulership in the sign of Leo and exalted in the sign of Aries. In Leo, the sun can easily focus on what it incarnated to do, which is to shine through heart-centered leadership, parenting, or creative self-expression. In Aries, the sun is free to put itself first. Both of these placements can be too strong, however, in that one can tend to be too self-first or self-focused, selfish, at the expense of others in relationship to it. The sun in Libra is weakened because instead of focusing on the self, Libra is focused on the other in one-to-one relationship with it. Either the romantic partner or the business partner. Libra has a tendency to put that other person first, which can be at the expense of self, which is why the sun would be weakened. Again, you want to look at the whole chart though to find balance, which I will use my own chart as an example of how I did it. This often happens with Libra because Libra is the chameleon or the great actor, which can kind of blend and go with the flow. It's an air sign. Of any situation, it can be the leader or the follower, sensing intuitively what that group needs. But if it doesn't have a strong sense of self or identity or boundaries, which it gets from Aries, it can lose itself in these relationships. Similarly, the sun in Aquarius tends to be more focused on the groups, networks, or friend circles that it's a part of, and can sometimes struggle to assert its own needs and boundaries within those dynamics. Back to Libra being weakened, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because Libra incarnated to initiate socially and to create equity, harmony, and balance within relationships, and to create beauty. I'll show you by using my own chart as an example. I am a Libra stellium. You can see here that I have 4 major placements in the sign of Libra. I have Mercury at 4 degrees, 44 minutes, Libra. Venus, 8 degrees, Libra. My ascendant, 12 degrees Libra. And my sun, 14 degrees Libra. If we look only at the pieces, we fail to see the big picture. So let's focus on the sun. Although my sun is 14 degrees Libra and technically weakened in the sign of Libra, it's within 2 degrees of my ascendant. So it's rising with the ascendant. And because it's in the first house, it's exalted, as if it were. So the first house is naturally ruled by Mars in Aries. So this would be the same as having the sun in Aries, or very similar. So underneath my Libra personality and sun and soul, there is a strong Aries undertone. I'm even built athletically. And what's in the first house is very visible as it affects one's persona. So this position, exalted in the first house, gives me strong Aries traits, while its position, rising with the ascendant within 2 degrees, gives me very strong Leo rising traits, the curly hair and all. The YouTube channel, the incarnating to lead. Additionally, if you look through this chart here and you specifically look for Aries energy, you might at first miss it if you didn't know to look at first house placements, for example. So aside from my descendant, which rules my 7th house of partnerships, which represents the parts of one's ego that one is less likely to admit in the self, but is also subconsciously attracted to in those it would be in one-to-one connection with. So this can be both like an employee-boss dynamic and like a relationship dynamic. This energy is often, we're mirrors. So we're attracting people that are reflecting back unto us those shadow parts of the ego that we're not quite ready to face. But they're doing that for a reason, to help you bring awareness to heal that. So we have that strong sun in the first house. We would also want to look for anything, if we're looking for Aries energy, anything in the first house, anything at the first degree, 1 degrees of a sign, or 13 degrees, which in my case I have a couple of times, but specifically my Mars in Gemini. The first degree and 13 degrees carry the energy of Aries and new beginnings and initiating. You also can find Aries energy in the conjunction of my natal moon and Mars. My Mars is at 13 degrees of Gemini, and my moon is nearby at 9 degrees Gemini. So this being in close proximity to one another gives it a very fiery Aries moon flavor. It's very similar to having your natal moon in Aries, which really isn't a surprise that several of my closest female friends are Aries moon. Even cooler, the sun in astrology is said to represent the energy of the soul as learned or passed down from one's father. My dad's birthday, like I mentioned, is March 21st. So he is 0 degrees Aries for his sun. If you look deeper at his chart, he has his north node in Aries and his natal moon on the cusp of Aries and Taurus. His Mars, which represents the outward expression of energy, and his south node, which would always be opposite the north node, past life mastery, both in Libra. Mars in a chart represents the outward expression of energy, our motivation and drive, and can often represent the energy one passes down to their children, especially from a paternal perspective. If you were to look at all 3 of my dad's children's charts, you can see I'm a Libra stellium, And both of my brothers are Generation X. So they were born when their Pluto was in Libra, which Pluto intensifies. So they have strong Libra too, as learned from our father. Aries energy is known for initiating through action and ideation, creation. The Aries full moon is an opportunity to bring your ideas to life in the physical form. This is a time to assert your needs and your passion as an individual, and to find balance between the self's need for autonomy, independence, and self-sufficiency, Aries, and the needs of the other that we're connected to in our one-to-one interpersonal relationships, Libra. Moon in Aries is assertive, daring, courageous, so don't be afraid to take a risk, to be more bold in your approach. The Aries full moon is here to bring in more confidence, movement, action, passion, and drive. Watch out for an imbalance of this energy. Imbalanced Aries can be prone to my way or the highway type selfishness, an over-reliance of self, often at the expense of personal relationships, impulsivity, and having a short fuse or short temper. So you may also want to watch out for outbursts of anger, aggression, and frustration. Be sure to utilize healthy outlets for pent-up emotion or energy, like exercising and taking decisive action on something. Those are two healthy expressions for Aries. While Aries energy is excellent at initiating new projects, it's less adept at seeing things through to completion. So you may also want to watch for a tendency to give on something prematurely or to get distracted. This full moon in Aries ushers us into eclipse season, which is a highly transformative time that brings change into our lives. Aries and Mars will rule over the eclipse cycle energies in 2024, with the North Node of Fate and Destiny and Chiron, our deepest collective soul wounding, both in Aries for all of 2024 and into 2025, urging us into the higher frequencies of Aries energy: self-sufficiency, independence, freedom, and assertion. While there is great sorrow and sadness tied to Chiron in Aries, often stemming from childhood neglect and or an overbearing parental or authority figure invalidating us, that causes us to internalize this false belief that we are not enough or somehow are not deserving of unconditional love and validation from others. Chiron, however, also empowers us to lean into the strength and wisdom that can arise from healing such wounds. This means healing any underlying fears of criticism or rejection by weaving that healing into who we are now in how we relate with others. So rather than sugarcoating or avoiding the wound altogether, because the more we repress and avoid, the more likely it will be that a full moon may trigger and bring some of these repressed feelings to the surface via our reactions to triggers and tests that arise. That this channel can be a source of inspiration for you, and that's why I'm here. May we live in a world where we are safe to discuss our wounding in a way that empowers ourselves and others and doesn't consume or overwhelm our energy. This full moon in Aries wants us to tap into our inner warrior or soldier. This full moon in Aries wants us to tap into our inner warrior and soldier on no matter what adversity we may be facing. It doesn't want us to sit around feeling sorry for ourselves or wallow in self-pity. Let's dive into the top transits and aspects. So on September 22nd, we had the autumnal equinox. The sun entered the sign of Libra for Libra season. Sun in Libra themes, fall with falling leaves. It's a time of grief and mourning, of letting go. This full Aries harvest moon is happening at 6 degrees of Libra, 6 degrees of Aries, the moon in Aries, sun in Libra. 6 degrees in degree theory is a degree point associated with Virgo and Virgo energy. Working, service, work-life balance, schedules, routines, health, illness, whole foods, holistic or naturopathic healing, pets, veterinary sciences, the service industry, renting, the digestive or GI system. We have our logical, conscious minds, Mercury, still in detail-oriented and analytical Virgo, where it's exalted, until October 4th. And we'll soon have our planet of love, beauty, and values, Venus, in the self-critical, perfectionistic, and nitpicky sign of Virgo from my birthday, October 8th, until November 8th, where it's predicted that we may see less spending, or perhaps the spending that we see will be specifically focused on one's self-improvement and self-care or health, investments into the self. Lean into the frugality of Virgo. To read the full Sabian symbol for 6 degrees Aries, but I'll point out some key notes. Watch out for a major revelation. You may have been wrong about someone or something. Someone or something may surprise you. And also, don't be fooled by appearances. Remember to look at all sides of the story to get a full picture, and look for actions over words. Sabian symbol for 6 degrees Libra, which is the ideals of a man abundantly crystallized, is about manifestation, manifesting the ideal and the law of attraction, to think to create your reality, but also remembering to keep it positive, because you can create either positive or negative by focusing on it. At its highest, the symbol represents a unique ability to develop all potential to its highest expression through creative resourcefulness and uninhibited imagination. On the negative, it can represent a failure to rise above the level of mediocrity as the result of an uninspired complacency or the avoidance of commitment, and a preference for keeping the status quo. So a big thing to look out for when the Sun and Mars especially are both in Libra is indecision. That's one of Libra's most toxic traits, and it literally can ride the seesaw of indecision and then not realizing that by not deciding, it is deciding and communicating something else entirely, and it may lose out on all those opportunities because it failed to take action on one. So the accent is on seeing your ideals manifested concretely. You may receive proof or verification that something you believed in and hoped was true truly is. Your opportunity, your greatest advantage lies in holding fast to your dreams. Expect the best and be willing to work for what you want. Discuss Aries, the Aries moon with Chiron and the North Node also in the sign of Aries, those 3 planetary energies all together in Aries. Moon in Aries answers to Aries' ruling planet Mars, the planet of war and aggression, that in a natal chart represents our outward expression of energy as it applies to pursuing our passions, motivations, and our drive. Mars is in Libra, where it is weakened, opposite its sign of rulership, remember? So if Mars rules Aries, look opposite to find where it could be debilitated or weakened, which would be Libra. It has difficulty expressing itself and asserting its needs. Mars is the ruler of the North Node of fate and destiny, while the North Node is in Aries. So with the North Node's ruler, Mars, coming into conjunction with its opposite, the South Node in Libra, Mars delivers karma, and the South Node representing past life karma, we can look for karmic connections, karmic triggers and situations coming, especially as it relates to relationships and toxic patterns and cycles within relationships. Under this harvest full moon, Mars is in close conjunction with the South Node in the late degrees of Libra. We're cutting something karmic or toxic out. This could be a karmic person, a cycle, a pattern of thinking, or behavior. This can bring up triggers in the form of conflict and frustration and interpersonal connections, so watch for burning bridges. You may also receive unexpected or out of the blue message or experience a run-in with past life soulmates. These are people who encourage our self-empowerment. So be sure to be on your best behavior. These are opportunities that test our ability to assert healthy boundaries. There will be an opportunity to resolve unfinished business in past romantic connections and to heal those. Wounded Chiron in Aries and shadow or lower vibrational Libra energy can look like repressing, minimizing, or sacrificing one's own needs to make others happy, repressing anger, being overly self-reliant or self-sufficient, at the expense of establishing healthy, balanced relationships with others. It may struggle to know what it wants or have a weak concept of self due to being overshadowed by a domineering parent, sibling, or authority figure in childhood. Personal preferences in childhood were possibly ignored or not seen, heard, or felt to be validated. This energy can experience burnout as a result of overextending the self, especially as compensation for low self-worth, which can stem from this childhood neglect. This placement can also result in remaining in toxic connections past the expiration date out of difficulty asserting its needs and from fear of conflict, not wanting to rock the boat, or being afraid of hurting or upsetting the other person. When Chiron is in Aries as a transit, it brings changes in laws pertaining to human rights, social changes, and preserving personal freedoms and liberties. So look out for these themes for the remainder of 2023, all of 2024, and into 2025, with the North Node and Chiron both in Aries, urging us into this greater collective balance through assertive Aries energy. It wants us to understand that love is inherently unconditional. So this means without condition. This means you don't have to give anything at all to receive it. Opposite, we have the Sun, Mars, and South Node in Libra. So watch out for lower vibrational Libra traits. Pull back from this overextended state. Watch for any patterns of martyrdom. Unsolicited advice or help often goes unappreciated, as the person who you're trying to deliver this unsolicited help, feedback, or advice to isn't open to it. So they're not able to hear it, yet alone appreciate it. So watch for overextending or overgiving and then becoming resentful of it either not being appreciated or reciprocated. Remember that not everybody shows love the same way that we do. Notice this pattern in imbalanced Virgo and Libra, which wants to fix, but unless that feedback is solicited, it can come off as preachy or holier than thou, and often leave that person feeling judged and as if they're less than. This full moon is illuminating for us where we're prone to overgiving, overextending, or overly attached or committed to others at the detriment of ourselves, or where we're failing to prioritize our authentic needs and values, especially when it comes to making someone else happy or avoiding conflict with someone. Watch for agreeing with everything that everyone says. Libra is the great chameleon or actor. It can be afraid of rocking the boat or upsetting others. And it can be prone to putting on a brave face, pretending everything is okay for appearances or out of fear of judgment from others. It puts too much stock in those opinions of others. And this is how I showed up incorrectly, or my toxic Libra came through in that karmic twin flame relationship. So yes, I had a person that was deceitful and manipulative, but if you really looked at his actions, which I had to do to play detective to figure out what was going on. If you really look at those actions were quite clear. This was a young man who, while it seemed he had developed strong feelings for me, was at the end of the day not who he was pretending to be and was not ready to receive that opportunity. Since unbeknownst to myself, he chose to self-sabotage. He chose to fall into those cyclic behaviors where there was an opportunity to level up along with me and heal together. We had one who was ready and one who was not. And if I could do anything differently, it would have been to leave sooner. You cannot do the work for other people. They must do their work in their own way, in their own perfect time, on their timeline. We can't do that work for them. Focusing on the Mars and South Node in conjunction in the late degrees of Libra, which is all about charm. This is preparing us for the new moon solar eclipse in Libra on October 14th. So what patterns of relating to others needs to end so that a new chapter with better balance may begin this October? Opposite the North Node in Aries, these Aries eclipses are pushing us all collectively to embody more Aries energy and traits. More individuality, authenticity, leadership, bravery, action, and boundary assertion. We have a cardinal T-square pointing at Pluto, ambitious and energetic, quick to action, but also prone to interfering in the lives of others and hurling themselves into dangerous situations without need or hesitation. So Pluto in Capricorn is in the last couple weeks of its retrograde. That goes direct on October 10th, which this Pluto through Capricorn transit since 2008 has been transforming our ambitions, our careers, what we do for work, and how we define success on a very personal level. Squares are pressure points. They represent obstacles that come along our path that we often experience internally. So in this cardinal T-square, we have both the North Node and South Node square Pluto. We also have Chiron square Pluto and Mars square Pluto. So we'll explore all of those. So first we'll explore Chiron square Pluto. This brings in opportunities to release any old baggage we may be carrying and to face the truth. Past wounds and traumas, especially those related to power and or status, can be healed under this transit, which ultimately leaves us with a greater sense of autonomy. We are especially focused on breaking free from past fears and insecurities, especially as they relate to our finances, sexuality, and or independence. You may see yourself emerging as a leader or authority figure now because of overcoming a past wound. We also have the North Node square Pluto. This transit can bring discomfort with exerting one's will, asserting those boundaries, which can cause people to seek underhanded or manipulative tactics to attain their goals. Watch for projections of false senses of power. Also watch for battling egos, especially battling wills with authority figures over the next few weeks, as they will not serve you well. Rather than trying to force the world to comply with your ideal reality, focus on your old wounds that may be causing subconscious and automatic reactions. We have the South Node square Pluto, which Pluto is at the midpoint of the North and South Node here, forming this T-square. So it has 1 foot in the past and 1 foot in the future. It's acting like a bridge, this generational gateway or step forward into a new era. Whenever the Pluto squares the lunar nodes, it aims to heal generational patterns of wounding and to help us rewire ourselves with more constructive behavioral patterns and thinking. Have Mars square Pluto, which exacts on October 8th. Mars square Pluto creates a strong desire to assert one's dominance and achieve a position of power. It can bring tremendous drive and ambition. Bottling up anger or resentment and letting that explode through angry outbursts. Take it from anyone with a moon in Aries or Mars conjunct their moon. This Aries energy needs an outlet. It needs to be working toward a goal or working on a project or have something to focus all that energy on. To be going to the gym, to be running, to be exercising, to be somehow active in some way. For power struggles and confrontations, especially in the workplace, because Pluto is in the sign of Capricorn, which is all about structures and organizations, corporations. Aspect we'll explore is Venus, 22 degrees of Leo, square Uranus, 22 degrees of Leo. And Venus is in conjunction with Juno, representing long-term commitments, and Black Moon Lilith, where we disempower ourselves. Those three are all aligned in the late degrees of Leo, with Venus specifically 22 degrees, exactly square Uranus, 22 degrees Taurus, while Uranus is retrograding. Expect the unexpected, especially as they relate to Venusian themes. There may be shakeups and breakups in interpersonal connections as conflicts in values challenge relationship stability. Taurus, as a Venus-ruled earth sign, rules our material successes, our resources, our assets, our property, and our money. Since Venus rules Libra, where the South Node, Mars, and Sun are, under this Aries full harvest supermoon, look out for curveballs and new beginnings in relationships, love, values, money, and beauty. There may be an important message coming in or a return of a past life connection who is in your corner and meant to help elevate you into greater alignment with your higher self. You may suddenly realize you've developed feelings for someone that you had not expected to. There may be options coming in. The South Node in Libra can bring karmic relationships and relationship patterns to the surface for healing. 22 degrees indicates the death of a loved one, so also be on the lookout for that over the next 2 weeks, especially as we head into the Libra new moon solar eclipse on October 14th. I alluded to the Venus, Juno, Black Moon, Lilith conjunction in the late degrees of Leo post-Venus retrograde. This is all about female empowerment, and I think that we are starting to see what the Divine Feminine Collective was reflecting on and coming into their confidence and their power during that Venus retrograde through Leo. I think we're seeing people start to actually start those nutritional habits, those diets, those exercise routines. They're actually starting to do the plan that they've been working on under these next couple weeks. Last aspect or transit I'll mention is Venus in Leo, sextile Mars in Libra. The two travel around the same pace, so they'll be in sextile for a little bit. This brings easy flowing energy for confident expression of authentic feelings, and it does not settle for superficial. It will not be happy swimming in the shallow end. I have a similar placement in my natal chart. It's in a grand air trine with Venus, 8 degrees Libra, trine Mars. So instead of the sextile, it's a trine with Mars at 13 degrees Gemini. I don't have to explain the other placements, but I can tell you that, well, the moon, which is in conjunction with that in the 8th house, is similar. It doesn't do surface. It wants to go deep. It wants to build long-term deep connections, and those that can't go below the surface, it doesn't really have much patience or tolerance for that. It just moves on and gets bored. And it certainly would never have the patience for a short-term fling that didn't align with its long-term vision.